Hey guys, this is Emil Harker, the marriage therapist. Today I'm going to talk to you about why your efforts to create greater closeness in your relationship usually backfires and has your spouse emotionally running for the hills. I call it the heart process. I'm going to teach you why that doesn't work and how you can fix it. The first step in understanding how you can fix this is understanding that we have influence. We have power in our relationships. Oftentimes we hear this statement, the only person you can change is yourself. So you have to unconditionally love your spouse. The problem with that is this emotional distance between the two of us, okay, me and my spouse, right? I don't like that distance. So I go back and forth between accepting things as they are, right? Not complaining, which then makes me feel further apart from my spouse. And then I go into trying to change the relationship, which usually means trying to change my spouse, okay? I bring up these frustrations and disappointments in hopes that my spouse says, thank you, now we can get on the same page. Doesn't happen. So let me walk you through how we can maximize our influence by showing you first that it isn't an either or. It's not, hey, we can't control anybody but ourselves, so we either have to accept things as they are or we end up complaining. So this is something that I know everybody's experienced, but it hasn't been done on purpose before. Most of these kinds of interactions I'm going to walk you through happen completely randomly. But if I can point out how true these things are, then hopefully you'll have confidence that maybe there's a way for us to change, like literally change what we do to change our spouse, okay? Let's say you're having a fine day. Life's good, good day, things are going great. And your spouse comes in and they're like pissy and ornery and negative and critical and nitpicky. How does that affect you? In minutes, okay, in the air that you're breathing together, you start to go, I don't like being treated like this. I shouldn't have to be treated like this. This is unfair. You're being mean. And what happens to our emotions? We start getting defensive or aggressive. Next thing you know, we have the same exact emotional experience and we're nitpicking at each other. And it started with your partner because before you were totally fine. But within minutes, this person has an influence on you. This is the proof of what I'm trying to explain to you, that people have an influence and we forget that we have influence. So don't forget that we have influence. We want to maximize that influence. Watch what happens. Let's say that you're just having a crappy day. Life is sucky. Kids are you're frustrated with the kids. Nothing's going right. You don't feel appreciated, so you're miserable, awful, in a dark place. Bad day. And your spouse comes in with the super spouse cape and decides that they're going to show up for you differently. So when they come home, they're trying to support, show compassion, understanding, validation, encouragement. They're positive, helpful. Now, the reason why you're in a pissy place in the first place is because you don't feel like you matter. You don't feel like your efforts are even doing anything. That your partner doesn't care. So as soon as that person shows up, even if the day has been terrible, what ends up happening to your pissy attitude goes away. And you're feeling great. You're feeling supported, understood, and loved. And then you feel happy. That's the power of someone single-handedly changing your emotion and your behavior. That's the power of it. Now, they don't sell super spouse capes. Those things got to be earned. What I'm going to show you is how you can have your very own super spouse cape anytime you want. You can pull out of your back pocket, show up completely differently. Let's talk about why the normal approach doesn't work. Okay? First, it starts out with understanding that everybody on the planet needs two things. Okay? They need love and they need safety. From the time you're a baby and on, everybody wants to feel a sense that they value, that they mean something, that someone else finds them important and appealing. But they also want to feel protected and safe. So everybody wants both of these. The trick is realizing that some people, based on how they've grown up, their personality, experiences they've had in their relationships, maybe their relationship with their parents, mom or dad, wasn't consistent. Maybe they had a soft heart and liked a lot of people growing up from kindergarten on, and they kept getting their heart broken over and over again to the point where they're kind of so afraid of getting hurt that they put safety as a higher priority than love. The people that do this start keeping their emotions at arm's length. They're more guarded. These people try to protect the peace and the safety as long as they feel loved. And what do? You want to feel loved because love's more important than safety. So you're doing things constantly try to create greater closeness. And this is where your efforts start to fall apart because you're doing the direct approach. You think since you aren't feeling close, you're not feeling that safe, that the best thing to do to create that safety and love is by creating greater closeness. If you create greater closeness, you'll feel safer and more love. How do you do that? You do the normal thing. You bring up issues. You bring up these frustrations, disappointments, okay? These things, frustrations and disappointments, maybe preferences and opinions, anything that you can think of to help you align your souls closer together. Because you believe that if you can remove these things, resolve these things, you can replace it with love, a feeling of connection. Doesn't happen, right? Doesn't work that way. Because why? What do? As soon as you bring up an issue, your spouse is offended. They take offense because they're feeling attacked. They're not seeing this as a strategy for closeness. Emotionally, their peace, the tranquility, the lack of conflict has been violated. And you are the person responsible for it. So what do? They don't say thank you. Let's have a nice long talk to resolve these issues. No, instead, they use it as an excuse to create more emotional distance. They're heading for the hills emotionally. This is why your efforts to create greater closeness backfires and creates greater distance. In order to maximize your influence, we need to understand that we have to include safety in the process of bringing up issues. When we learn the skills and strategies to incorporate safety in the process of bringing up issues, then your partner is more willing to engage in these conversations. That is the missing piece that keeps people from getting a response in a positive direction. I'm going to tell you a story. So Jen calls me. She is at her wit's end because she's realizing that after trying everything she can think of to make the relationship work, after 30 plus years of marriage, she's realizing that there's nothing more that can be done. And so now, as she's realizing that she's wasted 30 years of her life, that she wished she would have gotten divorced a long time ago, she's beating herself up that she didn't have the strength and courage to divorce him long ago. She's just torn inside because now the family has grown from 4 kids to like 20 people in their family because of all the grandkids and adopted kids. And now she's just at her wit's end. She's still in tears from having the conversation with her sister who gave her my number. And she's going, I need help. I need you to help me get strong enough and confident enough to divorce my husband. Because I just haven't been able to for that 30 plus years. And she walks me through the history of how she gets to a point where she's so exhausted emotionally that she's done with the relationship. And as soon as she's done with the relationship, as soon as she's done, she threatens the safety and the love that he's been hanging out in. Of course, arm distance. And as soon as she does, she's going, I'm done. That's when he's willing to work on the relationship. But he's not in it all the way. He does just the bare minimum. That goes on for over 30 years. She is starving emotionally, being fed on stale emotional breadcrumbs, dying of malnutrition emotionally, and realizing that she's not close to dead, but emotionally the relationship is dead. She decides that the only solution now is to get the strength and confidence to get divorced. I explained to her that may be the outcome. Divorce may be the outcome. But before we decide on divorce, let's first go through the heart process. Learning how to maximize our influence by understanding why people respond the way they do and address the safety component when there's interactions going on, when there's issues that need to be discussed. Because every time she brought up an issue, and you've experienced this too, every time you bring up an issue, it's like your spouse is wondering, why are you complaining? Why can't you ever be satisfied? It seems like you're trying to fight just to fight. You're trying to bring up an issue when there's not even an issue to talk about. And that your expectations are unreasonable. They'll even point out all the different relationships that are worse than yours as evidence to support their belief that you shouldn't be complaining. As if that ever works, right? So you go back and forth between complaining and trying to just bite your lip and hope things get better. So she goes through this process. She applies herself to the principles and strategies to give her the strength, because she needs the skills, and the strategies to support her boundaries in a way that she can support her boundaries with love. I can't tell you all the skills and strategies right now because those are in the 2-week marriage makeover. Something that you've already started, and if you haven't started it, get started right away. Those are going to teach you the skills and the strategies to be confident. Because now you're going to know how to communicate in a way that creates safety in the relationship. That's the strategy. We need to start to get inside the heads and heart of our partner so that we know how to communicate with them. Once we know what they want, what they're afraid of, then we communicate with greater power and influence in the relationship. When Jen was working on her confidence, her strength, she became happier. And after about 2 months, I get a phone call from her husband out of the blue. I didn't even know who it was at first. But he calls me and he says, hey, you've been working with my wife. And I'm going, who's this? And he described who he was. And I'm like, oh, okay. You've been working with my wife for a couple of months. She's more happy. She's more confident. She's just more alive than she's ever been. And I'm afraid I'm going to lose her. Can you help me save my marriage? If she had not been going through this process to learn how to identify what she wants and then how to communicate that in a way that didn't attack the safety, he would have found that as more of a reason to create more distance. But because she was strategically eliminating his excuses by focusing everything on what she needed to do to make the relationship different and better, his excuses started to melt away. And because she became more appealing, he became more concerned and worried. And that's when he made that phone call. That was an awkward phone call because he struggled even knowing what to say to me to explain the situation. He engaged in the process. He applied himself to it. And here's what's cool. When he engaged in the process and applied himself to it, he learned how to communicate. He learned how to connect his thoughts and his feelings and be able to articulate those. And as he was able to articulate those and be able to communicate in real time what he was thinking and feeling, he became more emotionally vulnerable. Now that emotional vulnerability wasn't super scary for him, okay? It was nerve-wracking for him, but not scary because she had created a sense of safety for him so that he could be vulnerable. So he's vulnerable, he's connecting, and their emotional intimacy starts to explode, which of course you can tell is going to have an impact on their physical relationship. I invite you, if you haven't already started the 2-week marriage makeover, do the 2-week marriage makeover. Commit to the principles that will transform your relationship, even if you have to do it all by yourself.